MarkRogersTV talking South Carolina football each and every Friday morning with Will Gunter from the all-new early game. You can catch him on 107.5 The Game. We call it Gamecocks Breakdown. Will, you doing a little fishing out there this morning?
Thankfully, they weren't letting us on the lake. We were not doing fishing, but we were doing the radio show from there, and so that was a lot of fun and a different experience at 6 a.m. in the morning to be out there and see all those boats go off.
Well, that's about enough for the fishing conversation. We'll move on to football because we've got some important matters ahead with the football season just 3 weeks away and a pretty good North Carolina State team. So you had kind of the coaching caravan coming through the show this week. So we'll take it from the top, from the man himself. Will Muschamp stopped by. So what did you take from what the head coach had to say this week?
You know, again, I think one question that I wanted to ask Will Muschamp was, obviously he's going into his 6th year as head coach, but his 2nd at South Carolina, and his comfort level with knowing the players, with not having to deal with a quarterback controversy like he was last year, or a quarterback battle. And I think you see a coach, or you hear a coach who's very confident in the direction of this program. That doesn't mean they're going to go out and win the SEC East and compete for an SEC championship, but you have the pieces in place for this team to maybe surprise people and be better. And he's very proud of the buy-in that they've had at fall camp. He's told a story a couple times now about teams, championship teams he's been around, that either embraced fall camp or complained about it, whined about all the things you have to do and the time spent on it, how difficult it can be. And he really likes how his team has embraced it, and very pleased with the progress of both his offense and his defense and his newcomers.
Two coaches come to mind when you make that comment, Will. Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick. I'm sure there are numerous other examples of guys who were tremendous coaches in their own right, on coaching staffs, as coordinators, as assistant coaches, but they needed that one rep as a head coach to really get it down right. And unfortunately for Cleveland and the New York Jets, they got Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick at the wrong time, but then they turned out to be great coaches because they've talked about learning to be a head coach, and it's much different being the CEO and trying to balance the on-the-field work and really getting engaged with the players and also running an organization, and that's a lot to take on, and they had to have that one trial period, that one rep, that one job to set them up for future success.
Well, you know, and Will Muschamp's talked about it, what he's learned from his 1st year to his 6th year, and he's compared it to being a freshman in college to a 4th-year player in college. By the 4th year, you have a good feel for how everything's going. You're more knowledgeable. You understand things better. Now, he needs that to pay off a little bit. He's got to get some more talented players. Players are kind of what makes the coach. But I do agree that he seems to have a better grasp right now of how to orchestrate his staff, what he wants to do offensively, and where the direction he wants that particular side of the ball to go, and what he wants to do defensively. And also, look, I think you can't underestimate the difference in pressure that he had at Florida coming off the Urban Meyer era, and the pressure at South Carolina coming off the way the Steve Spurrier era ended, going 7-6 and then 3-9. And I think that helps him tremendously with people knowing that this is a rebuilding job, and coming into this job knowing he's got 5 years just to kind of make this program competitive again, not necessarily win championships. And so I think he knows it's just a different situation for him here as opposed to it was at Florida. And again, like you mentioned, I think it's a guy who has seen the mistakes he made the first time. That the emphasis, we've talked about recruiting, the emphasis on offensive linemen and wide receivers and skill position players at South Carolina in recruiting has kind of been fascinating to watch, maybe as opposed to how he did it at Florida.